Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the King of Armor Destruction, Armor Wizard, Zap. We have a body armor demo today, that's why you tuned in. These are XR32 from RTS Tactical and NIJ Level 4 or upcoming NIJ 07 RF3 plate. In full transparency, RTS Tactical sent these over as well as some Level 3A panels for us to demo with no strings attached. Let's take a closer look at these guys on the B-roll. This XR32 plate from RTS Tactical is NIJ CPL listed, meaning that if you go on their website and look up the NIJ compliance listing, you will find this model. I do not believe RTS Tactical makes this. I do believe it's made in Mexico. You can cross-reference this number with various other manufacturers. Being NIJ certified means that it's gone through a lot of rigorous testing and proving out of logistics and raw materials to ensure that plate serial number 10 is the exact same as plate number serial 10,000. This single curve model weighs 7 pounds 1.1 ounces or 3.226 kilograms. It is 1.04 inches thick and or 26.51 millimeters. It is single curve, as I mentioned, so you only have that one rolling curve right there versus a multi-curve where you've got a curve here, and depending on your body type, it may fit your body better or not. This is a shooter's cut plate, so we've got that cut out on each side so we can better put our rifle buttstock up against our shoulder. If this is the first time you're viewing my YouTube channel, we do all of our body armor demos completely different than everyone else on YouTube. We're after worst case scenario. Since this is rifle armor, we shoot at 45 feet. That is the official NIJ testing distance. We also shoot at 0 degrees because that represents worst case scenario. Any oblique angles only add to the amount of material that bullet has to penetrate and could give you false expectations of performance. We use a giant clay briefcase filled with Roma Plastilina #1 clay from Chavant that acts as our compressible media to put the body armor up against and gives us a general representation of backface. It is the same clay that the NIJ uses, but they heat it up to 100 degrees in an environmental chamber and they scrape the entire face flat and measure backface a lot more precise than I do. We're looking at a representation of what backface could be. If we see something like a huge 60 millimeter dent in our clay in the NIJ's eyes, that probably would be failing. Since this armor employs a ceramic strike face per the NIJ, we've gone ahead and dropped each plate on its face 2 times as a preconditioning test. After we've done that, we mark each plate with a DT indicating that we've done a drop test, and if we do it multiple times, we put a number next to it. And then we do a torque test. That's where we take the opposing edges of our plate and listen for any cracks by applying stress to it. If we don't hear any, mark it with a TQ. From what I can tell pre-teardown, this plate employs a full edge-to-edge strike face, meaning that for this 10 by 12 size, we have ceramic that extends all the way out to the edge or very close to it. I do want to note that something that we've noticed in some of our newer testing is that some plates are listed at certain sizes, 10 by 12 for example, and actually measuring them with a tape measure, you will not get that actual true size. So we measured our XR32 plate to be around 10 1/4 by 12 1/8. It's also 65 to 70 degrees outside today. We also use a chronograph whenever possible. We have a ProChrono PAL Digital DLX as well as our Garmin Xero C1. A big thank you to Bass Pro Shops for sending that out. That has been a godsend for picking up additional velocity when our light screen fails or we have somewhat of an obscure number reading off that. After all, we need to know the velocity of those bullets. NIJ Level 3 calls for M2 armor piercing at 2880 feet per second plus or minus 30. And in my experience, most of our surplus and our 24-inch barrels are only getting around 2750 to maybe 2800 feet per second. And finally, we put a spreadsheet here at the beginning and the end. I'm going to foreshadow all the threats that we're going to shoot at it. In the end, we mark our penetrations and our velocities, and we do a teardown to confirm what the inside of our plate may look like, and we can make some judgments based on what we see to better construct these plates. I do want to remind everyone that I'm not an NIJ lab, so if you see a threat stopped or penetrated here, you should always defer to the manufacturer to produce accredited and recent lab results for their products. And on the flip side, if you manufacture and you see me stop some kind of insane obscure threat here, you should send that off to a lab and have it added as a special rifle threat to your panel. Plate number 1 is strapped in and ready to go. Since this is level 4, we're going to start right off with the NIJ level 4 threat. Then we like to kind of show how multi-hit capable some ceramic designs are. So we've got 3 rounds of our M2 armor piercing. This is 163 grain full metal jacket with a hardened steel penetrating coordinate that's very, very long. And what you have to do with ceramic is you have to degrade that penetrating core and then let the backer catch it. We have 3 rounds of it. We've got a 24-inch BC8 from Bear Creek Arsenal, so we should see right around 2880 feet per second, if not a little bit hotter. Let's see, Garmin said 2962. That is a little too fast. All right, easy enough. Shots number 1, 2, and then 3. Place those bets in the comments below. Oh, Raggy. We stopped shot number 1, but shots 2, which were at the spec velocity, and 3, I think that was a little warmer, both penetrated. And I'm gonna guess the reason for that is we're using an aramid fiber for our backing material. Now the advantages to our aramid Kevlar is that we're gonna see less back face deformation, but when that ceramic strike face can't break up that bullet and there's still a significant mass with speed behind it, this type of material is gonna catch it. So if we look at that back face there, that is very, very controlled. And again, with the level 4 threat standard and even the upcoming 07, you only have to stop one of those rounds and it's going to be right there. Even the new revised hit pattern, it's still just a single. So that back face right there is maybe 20 millimeters if you're lucky. Like I said, the clay, I don't really build it up a whole lot because that's just a lot of extra time, and we're just looking at a representation. Like if you saw something like that and a stoppage, you would know that would be failing the NIJ's eyes. Now we'll see how this plate can handle some multi-hit scenarios. Again, for NIJ threats, unless otherwise specified, there are no quote-unquote lesser threats. They have to be specifically tested for NIJ level 4. As I mentioned, this is a CPL plate, so there are logistics and history behind it with fit tests to prove that it is capable of stopping the standard threat. So we have our M193, that's our 55 grain full metal jacket. We have our M855, that is our lead core with a steel penetrating tip, SS109 or whatever you want to call it, green tip. Then we have the U.S. Army's new standard M855A1 or the EPR round. If any of you guys are looking for this, I have a discount code, Buffman at Warpig Armory. That's where I get a lot of this for our testing. It's not cheap, but if you want the good stuff, that's where you get it from. 3434 off the Garmin. 3380. 3372. 3400. 3115. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3154 on that last shot. This cover makes some of these shots a little hard to see, but M193 shots number 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Then our M855 number 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Then A1 was all at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Place those bets in the comments below. Looks like we're using that higher density yellow drop face foam. Good thing. We'll have to confirm, but it looks like we had one pass through on the M855A1 down here, and it looks like all the other threats were stopped. We'll have to confirm. Oh, maybe that one looks like it might have poked through. We will double check. And I might have placed that one too close to that M2AP shot right there, but fairly impressive. Again, with our aramid backer, we're going to lose out on being able to catch some of those rounds like M855A1 if it makes it through the strike face. Looks like they're using alumina, which is the white ceramic. It's a little denser and tougher than our silicon carbide or boron carbide. Plate number 2 is ready to go. Based on some of our results, we're gonna have to be really careful on how much more I can abuse this one. It would seem with that backer, it's not meant for anything too extreme. And I say that, and what do I have here? 375 H&H Magnum. This is your dangerous game for South Africa load. This is a 300 grain round nose from PPU. We've got a Winchester Highwall 1885 with a 28-inch octagon barrel. This was from my father's estate. I figured we'd check it out, see how it shoots, see how much it hurts my shoulder, I should say. 25-49. I think we'll finish this plate off with some more 30 caliber threats, but we won't go quite up to the 300 Win Chad. We've got our standard 7.62 NATO here. We've got a 24-inch Savage 110 tactical. Got the Magpul Hunter stock in here. Big thank you to Shields for sending that out. We've got 2 rounds right here. We've got our M80 ball. It's a 145 to 150 grain full metal jacket. This particular lot has a bimetal jacket, meaning that there's some kind of ferrous material in it that attracts a magnet, and it could be argued that that jacket is a little tougher than a standard copper jacket. Then we've got the U.S. Army's replacement for that, which is our M80A1 EPR, very much like our M855A1. It's got a copper core, a large hardened arrowhead steel tip. Now the Rockwell hardness on this is only around 4950 versus M855A1, which is right around 60. I shot that one too high, folks. On the right-hand side. Now our standard M80 ball. 2939, now that is 200 feet per second over our NIJ spec for level 3. 2946. Here was our 375 H&H. Man, that's a lot of kick. Then our M80A1, the first shot was right here because I forgot I dialed the scope up. So then shot number 2, which is a fair hit, was right here. Shot number 3. Then our M80 ball was number 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Place those bets in the comments below. Ruh-oh, Raggy. We have a penetration from what we can tell from our 375 H&H, as well as that second shot of M80A1, but the rest of our 308 was stopped on this plate. I think at this point there's no sense in shooting it anymore. My poor clay.
Paging Dr. Matt to surgery. Paging Dr. Matt to surgery.
Now for a fan favorite, the teardown. That's where we get to look at the guts of our plates, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sometimes the harder it is for me to get into your plate, that usually means that it is constructed better and does a better job at taking multiple shots. So here is plate number 2. We're using like our Cordura style wrap, kind of like Hesco. Was very hard to get into. The adhesives are very good. We have a blunt force trauma foam on the back. I couldn't really measure how thick it was, mainly because it didn't come off in an even manner. Here is our backing material confirmed on plate number 2. Our penetrations were our 375 H&H, as well as that second shot of M80A1, likely because it's, you know, it's a fair hit close to that, but it's still pretty close to where that ceramic was destroyed. As I mentioned, we're using Kevlar or aramid fibers for our backing material. We measure that right around 320 thousandths thick. This does good job at controlling back face, but not a good job at catching things that make it through it. Like that 375 should have been stopped in a normal level 4 plate that uses polyethylene. It is still fairly rigid, so I'm going to guess they probably press this or use an autoclave, but we are starting to delaminate it a little bit. I think it's overall too thin to do its job for any of those advanced threats. Here is our strike face. It is alumina. I measured that right around 365 thousandths thick. It doesn't have a laminating layer, so it degraded fairly quickly. You can see that crack propagation coming from that 375. And we actually just like even peeled off like just little thin layers of our ceramic there. We have another layer of aramid at 68 thousandths in front of that. It is kind of like a laminating layer. More so, that layer I think is to control any fragmentation that may come off of it. That's a good thing that I saw on this plate, is any ceramic that was breaking off wasn't shooting out of the sides or fronts that, you know, could cut you in the extremities. Out front, we have our high density drop face foam. This is kind of like the foam that Hesco uses. I think it does a really good job. I measured that right around 195 thousandths thick. And other than that, that's all she wrote. It does have a complete edge-to-edge strike face, as you can see, for that 10 by 12 plate. That ceramic is all the way out to the edge. They do wrap some of that foam around the outer perimeter, which is a good thing of stopping any cracks starting if you get any edge strikes. Plate number 1, confirmed penetrations were shots 2 and 3 of our M2 armor piercing, as well as this M855 shot over here and our M855A1 shot down there. There again is our strike face. You can see Likely where the ceramic was, it was able to degrade our projectiles, and then if we broke them up, then that's what was able to get through our backer there. And then there's our strike face, what's left of it. It is all in shambles. It does kind of look like there is a little bit of a laminating layer on the back, but it's not as robust as what we've seen with some of our other plates. Well, folks, in my humble opinion, this XR32 plate from RTS Tactical did exactly what an NIJ Level 4 plate is supposed to do, and maybe just a little bit more. It stopped our M2 armor piercing at above the spec velocity on that first shot, but the second and third shot couldn't handle it. It was able to take multiple follow-up shots of our 5.56, with some of them squeaking through depending on how close they were to follow-up shots. As I mentioned throughout the video, I don't think our Aramid Kevlar backing material does a good job at containing any threats that the ceramic strike face can't fully degrade. I was kind of surprised that our 375 H&H Magnum made it through, although that is quite a bit of muzzle energy to contend with. We were able to stop our M80A1 as well as an onslaught of our standard M80 ball, again above the NIJ spec velocity for our level 3 threats. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here, but at the end of all my videos, I take a moment to thank all those who helped make these possible, because there's a lot that goes into them. I have my little running total of total armor destroyed from 2023 onward here, so that number keeps going up. So anytime that I can work with the manufacturer or take on a sponsor to procure some of these plates, it's just more data that you guys can consume. It helps me offset some of those costs. Number one is my family. They're always out here helping me take care of the property or even pull a trigger from time to time. Number two are my Patreon, Subscribestar, and YouTube channel memberships. I have all that turned on. Again, have the campsite in the description below for various different ways to support the channel. Number three is RTS Tactical. Again, in full transparency, sent me those plates to destroy with no strings attached. And of course, number four is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.